Tron Moore continues to say, this time on 97.1 The Ticket, that he has all the faith in the world in Alex Orji's throwing ability and that he is a superior athlete, one of the best athletes on the team. That leads a lot of people to say, well, why isn't he starting and playing? But nonetheless, we need to start pigeonholing exactly, or shoehorning more so, what Michigan needs to do with Alex Orji. Let's take a look in comparison to what Jalen Milroe has done over his kind of ascent at Alabama. And then we'll also look at some of the advanced stats and what they say about Michigan and USC. We'll do that on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And as I say happy Wednesday, I'm like, man, it's been a heck of a week. And it's like, lemon, it's Wednesday. That's where I'm at. 30 Rock reference for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about there. Anyway, it is, we inch closer to the big game against USC. As I kind of look more into this, and we're going to get more deep into the advanced analytics, both PFF and SP+, in a lot of ways, this is the more kind of matchup that Michigan needs compared to Texas. Texas is just superior in almost every way. But obviously, they've had different games and stuff, and obviously by the end of the year, it could look a lot different. But what Michigan really needs, and they need it from this guy, if you're watching on video, my card of Alex Orji, they need it from him, is to look a lot like Jalen Milroe. Now, obviously, you want him to look like Jalen Milroe now and not necessarily Jalen Milroe 2022 against Texas A&M, but they still did win that game. Alabama did against Texas A&M 24-20. You'll take that, absolutely, but you would love to see it look more like one of those games where they just absolutely ran away with it. Now, keep in mind, Alabama had a lot of close games in some of these matchups, and you know that's what big Alabama wants you to forget about. I closed my window, so I got to reopen it here. You look at what Alabama's scores were with Jalen Milroe as the starter. Now, he didn't play in week 3 when they won 17-3 against South Florida, at South Florida, which is still funny to me. 56-7 against Middle Tennessee. They lost to Texas, which prompted the move to bench him for a minute. He comes roaring back. 24-10, 40-17. 24-10 came against Ole Miss. So you hope that defensively, Michigan's defense looks like Ole Miss's did. It is capable and possible of doing so, even if we haven't seen it this year. That's kind of the thing that you have to remember with this defense. This defense has looked nothing like what it looked like last year, and it has that capability because it's mostly the same players with a handful of exceptions, and it's not like, well, where they're really failing is but where Mikey Sainer still was or anything like that. No, that's not really the case, but they're just going to have to be smarter and play better. Obviously, they need a lot more from the linebacking core. I digress. So when you look at the individual games here, at Texas A&M 26-20, against Arkansas 24-21, hosting Tennessee 34-20, LSU 42-28. It's a mixture of the defense coming to play and the offense managing to find some stuff out. Now, obviously, Alabama had a much more talented wide receiving core than what Michigan has. If Colston Loveland does play, which is, I think, fully expected, it will be he's the best offensive player. It all depends on his limitations with his shoulder and all of that. And I can't imagine that's going to limit him completely in the passing game. It's not like a lower body injury, which I think would be much more daunting in a lot of ways. But obviously, you maybe telegraph a little bit what you're doing if Colston's out there in obvious passing downs and so on and so forth, compared to rundowns and all of that. So it does matter. It's just maybe it doesn't matter as much because he might not necessarily be the target and he can take things away from you, but that would also tip your hat as to what you're trying to do. But I was taking a look at some of Jalen Milroe's stats and kind of what Alabama, how they deployed him. And that's where we're looking. How did they deploy Jalen Milroe? So in 2022, he had one game as a starter against Texas A&M. he had 83 rushing yards and 111 passing yards. So that's not necessarily like a stat on fire type scenario. You hope Michigan gets a little more passing yards out of Alex Orji, but 83 rushing yards might be about where it is. In 2023, he averaged 12 carries for 41 yards on the ground. As far as passing, he averaged 218 yards per game. Let's take a deeper look at what he did. So as far as passing is concerned, he only had one game that eclipsed 300 yards passing, and that was against Texas A&M. Otherwise, they weren't asking him to necessarily be a guy that was going to attempt a lot and do a lot. That was the game where he threw over 30 times. Every other game, it's either in the teens or the 20s, mostly the 20s. Middle Tennessee, 13 for 18, 194 yards. Texas, 14 for 27 for 255 yards, only 51% passing there. His other 50-ish percent passing, had two. 10 for 21 against Arkansas for 238 yards. That means they hit some long bombs. And then against Georgia in the SEC championship game that they won, 56.5%, 13 for 23 for 192 yards. The important thing is you look here, and he had 6 interceptions on the year, 2 in the loss to Texas, 1 against Ole Miss, 1 against Texas A&M, and 1 against Arkansas. Otherwise, mostly touchdowns. But generally, you're looking at an average, like I said, in the low 200s. That's kind of where Michigan needs him to be as far as passing the ball. You look at like that Tennessee 14-21, 66.7%, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception. I think you can live with that in a game like this. You hope you don't have any of the turnovers, but I think you can live with that. The more important stat is what does he do on the ground rushing. He had some games where there were some negatives. It isn't that every game was like this big net positive, right? Against Texas A&M, he had negative 31s on 8 carries. He against Arkansas, which we just mentioned, 11 carries for negative 19 yards. Surprisingly, against Michigan, I don't remember this. He had 21 carries for 63 yards. He was kind of buoyed by some of these games where like 18 carries for 107 yards against Auburn. He had some where it was 8 carries for 36 yards against Mississippi State, 11 carries for 69 yards against Middle Tennessee, 7 carries for 48 yards. So with Alex Orji, the sweet spot, I think, is kind of the average of what Jalen Milroe was able to do. 12 carries for 41 yards. I think that is kind of about what you're going to need from him, especially because you want to be able to get your other running backs going as well. So if you look at Jace McClellan, their lead running back last year, I mean, he was still kind of getting his, but you want to see more. Like some of the games were 10 carries for 39 yards, and then some were 17 for 105 yards or 27 for 115 yards. Against Michigan, he was 14 for 87. So I think you need to have a little bit of that kind of balance between Orji and whether it's Mullings or if it is Donovan Edwards. Because you kind of have, I'm looking at Roydell Williams only had 1 carry for negative yards against Michigan. And I don't know that, you see kind of a little bit of a mix of guys, and no one else was necessarily having that type of success. So you need to get Donovan in rhythm, but I think you can use Donovan in multiple ways, right? Because again, looking at Alabama, as far as receiving is concerned, I think one of the important things is they got Jace McClellan involved in the receiving game, not as much as Donovan Edwards is a guy that I would really like to see them get involved. But he averaged about 10 yards a game. You want to see more than that from Donovan. But you can get him involved. And this offense has the potential to be a lot more dynamic if Michigan is smart about it and says, okay, we're gonna say that we're gonna get like 7 or 8 carries for Alex Orji. We're gonna make sure we hand the ball off another 25-ish times, maybe 30 times in the game, and then we're gonna pass another 20 times, right? So if you have 60, some like a pie of like, let's say 55, Michigan's gonna try to play complementary football and say it's got 55 plays. I think that you want to see about 20 passing attempts, and then that means that you've got about 35 to deal with the rushing game, and then you kind of want to split that up kind of like a 15, 10, and something like that, and 10. I think that would be a good way to go. Honestly, you want to see more than 35 carries. You want to see more like 45 in a game like this. Just really keep away from the USC offense, which certainly feels daunting in some ways, but we're going to go into maybe why it's not fully as daunting. We're going to look at some of the PFF as well as the SP Plus, Bill Connolly's metrics. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, you heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, that's Sunday, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but I also want to tell you, there's a lot of stuff happening now that we are starting to kind of transition into fall. You still got some baseball games I'm sure you want to go to. There's concerts coming up. I'm looking to go to Maverick City at Little Caesars Arena in November. Just kind of keeping my eye on a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's this next weekend, or maybe it's the weekend after. The Sklar Brothers coming to the Michigan Theater. Better way to get into the game, into the concert, into the comedy show is through Game Time. And the good thing is Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of the best parts of Game Time is the fact that they have all these curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. Whether it's the super deal, the Game Time Picks, what I just told you, and the seat views before you buy are unmatched, unparalleled, know exactly what you're looking at so you don't have an obstructive view. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. All right, so I spent some time kind of going through and looking at, obviously we were kind of stats heavy here. It's just kind of like a weird thing as we kind of get into a week like this, like you don't really know what to expect. You're changing things up offensively. It could go really well. It could go really poorly. I tend to think it might go better than people think. I know that there's going to be some that say, well, they didn't choose Alex Orji in the outset, but I think it's one of those things I was talking to a friend about a couple weeks ago, and they spent this whole time kind of letting everyone believe that Alex Orji was going to be the starter. And I understand the guys in that building might have a little bit of a different view, but at the same time, when they're picking up the EA Sports College Football 25 game, they're starting to play it. They're playing as Alex Orji, right? All expectations, and keep in mind, they didn't, EA Sports didn't get that from nowhere. They picked that up and they were able to, get that from Michigan, that he's the expected starter. Things went differently. And I think with Davis Warren, the expectation is, hey, maybe this won't look too much differently than it did with JJ. And we are able to kind of keep the consistency, because I do think the offense does change a bit with Alex Orji, obviously, because now suddenly you have a true dual threat guy. If Michigan is smart, if Michigan is stupid, which I don't put it past them, they could absolutely say, hey, Alex, go and do the same stuff that Davis Warren was doing, and maybe every now and again take off. That would be stupid. Michigan needs to fully utilize his dual threat capabilities. But let's get into just kind of how this matchup looks on paper according to advanced analytics. Now, keep in mind, PFF is looking backwards, SP Plus is looking forwards. So that's kind of how this works, okay? Because PFF is grading you on what you have done, and SP Plus is a mixture of looking at what you have done and saying what you're capable of. We'll start with PFF is what you have done. So in terms of offense, and I'm going to compare Texas in here because that I think is a good barometer, because we saw Texas in its offense absolutely dominate Michigan. Well, I've got some bad news. Texas is number 19. USC, after 2 games, is rated 17. So not great. Texas is 19, perhaps maybe taking a step back, having played Michigan. Maybe, I hope. But USC is currently rated higher. It played LSU and Utah State, so draw your own conclusions from that. But when it comes to passing, and that's going to be the big unfortunate matchup for Michigan, because you need to get Jair Hill going. Sounds like, according to Lamar Morgan today, that Jair Hill is going to continue to roll out as the starter. And right now, USC is 11th in passing. And Texas was 14 in the country, according to PFF's rankings. So that is not Those two things, not great for Michigan. But then it gets a little bit better. Not really. Because this next one, offensively, USC is third in rushing as well. Texas is not even in the top 50. Michigan is ranked 11th by just by comparison. So USC is firing on all cylinders. It's going to be a challenge for the defense. One of the things I didn't write down, let's see if I still have the PFF thing up. I think I kind of closed it. No, I didn't. Here, no, I did close what I had up. We can get this back quickly. Let's do it. Clear. Okay. So one of the things that I do want to mention, though, let's look at the run defense real quick and see like where some of these teams rank that USC has played, because that's also important to note. Because when I look at run defense, Michigan's 18th, and Texas managed to run on Michigan. It wasn't nearly as bad as it felt, but it felt bad, right? And then so we're looking at Utah State and LSU. So I got to scroll here, and I've got all kinds of schools in here beyond just the Power Five, because they have everything in here. Texas is actually 112th when it comes to run defense. Michigan didn't struggle to run against Texas. They just kind of went away from it because they had to. But LSU is 139th. 139th. Let's. I got 460 teams in this. Let's just go FBS. Let's do that. Let's make this a little easier on ourselves. Texas is 63rd when you look at the FBS in run defense. USC is 83rd, so even worse. But I want to see where Utah State also is, because we need to know what can these teams do, to stop the run. Utah State, which is 1-2, is 133rd out of 134 schools at stopping the run. So Michigan, again, is ranked 12th when it comes to run defense. They had a bad game against Texas and two really good games otherwise. All right, back to the things that I wrote down since I just went off there. So when it comes to run blocking, staying with the offense here before we move back to the defense, Michigan is actually 24th in run blocking and 88th in pass blocking. So that should also tell you, Michigan, run the freaking ball, because you're just better at blocking it. Hence, I kind of said, maybe if you have 55 plays, maybe you run the ball 40 times and you pass it 15 times. I think that's probably the better way to go. USC is not good in pass blocking. It's 100th in pass blocking, but it's a little bit better in run blocking, and 67th. So this should be a game where Michigan should be able to get a little bit better pressure. Looking at pass the run blocking, Michigan has played three teams, of course. Fresno State is 34th in run blocking, and Michigan limited them to 9 yards. Arkansas State is 113th in run blocking. That they had 58 yards, but I mean a lot of that came very late in the game against the fourth-string defense. And then, I didn't finish this. As far as run blocking goes, Texas is 73rd. So they had their way with those slow developing handoffs. Pass blocking, so Fresno State, you hope that is the highest on there. They're 123rd. It's not. Again, so they were able to get pressure on Fresno State. Okay, so that's at least good. Texas, in terms of pass blocking, is 5th. They're the best that Michigan might see all year. And then Arkansas State is actually dead last in pass block, or not dead. Sorry, I just didn't scroll. They're 97th in pass blocking. They were not able to get home there. So Michigan's just got to be better than it was last week, and you hope in a big game like this that they are. So, all right, we're kind of bumping up against it. So I'm going to try to finish out these PFF grades. I actually had these written down. I don't know why I had to search them. Last thing offensively, USC is 25th in receiving grades. Texas was 4th, and Michigan, unsurprisingly, is 101st. So USC's offense is theoretically better in rushing, in passing, but overall an offensive receiving grade, not as good. That's kind of bodes a little bit better for them. Michigan's obviously not great there. But defensively is where it's at. Let's get to defense on PFF and then SP Plus. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, hey, Locked On Wolverines fans, have you heard about ROY? It stands for Return on You, and it is a new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved in NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can help shape rosters, retain talent, keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes. ROY changes the NIL game for fans. You've got to take charge because maybe Michigan will or will not. We'll find out. Here's why ROY is different. There's exclusive content access. When fans can contribute to a successful campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from athletes, such as their announcement decision, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to the fans who supported the athlete. You can also engage with athletes on their NIL journey. By using ROY, fans not only support athletes financially, but also become of their name, image, and likeness journey, helping them succeed both on and off the field. So download ROY for iOS and Android and enter the referral code LOCKEDON, and you'll be automatically entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit ROY.com for additional details. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with ROY. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but before we do, I'm sure if you're watching on video, and you wouldn't know this if you're listening on audio, you'll know that I've got a cool LED sign with a block M on top of it behind me. There's eventually, shout out to Shamari Stone. He got me a cool vanity license plate. It's going to go underneath it. Just haven't had a chance to put that up. Right now it's telling me ranked games that are happening this weekend. But what it is, it's a team ticker. Team ticker is one-of-a-kind sports sign for college sports fans. Team ticker is 1.5 feet by a 2-foot wall. Okay, some random update on my computer. 2-foot wall sign featuring the Block M logo that has a cool retro-looking LED display. Display is updated daily with fresh content such as a countdown to the next game, schedules, standings, stats, and news. It's super fun and a great way to stay connected with Michigan Wolverines sports. The combination of design and function that gives you entertaining, creative ways to display your team pride while providing a unique connection to your favorite team. Whether it's football, men's, women's basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, Team Ticker has you covered on all of it. Never miss a game, as the high-tech retro display provides a countdown to the next big game, as well as daily updates of the latest team news, stats, schedules, standings, and much more. Using the content control section of the mobile app allows you to control the sports you see, and the remote control function lets you jump directly to whatever section of the content that you want to go to. Each sign is officially licensed, meeting high-quality standards, and is assembled by hand in the United States. Team Ticker is the ultimate addition to your Michigan Wolverine sports collection. Once you hang it on your wall, it's going to be the talk of all of your fellow Michigan fans. If you're looking for that one eye-catching item to showcase your team pride or a gift that special Wolverines fan will love, go to teamticker.com and pick up your Team Ticker today. Now, here's the thing. Team Ticker is one of a kind sports sign. Go to teamticker.com. Use that promo code LOCKEDON, and you're going to get $50. See, I always mess these types of things up. Numbers, not me. Good. $50 off of your Team Ticker purchase. All right, we've got a few minutes left. About 6.5 minutes that I can go, according to the camera. Let's finish out. Let's talk about the defense and special teams, then get into the quick SP Plus as far as the matchups here. So defensively, as far as the grades of how Michigan has graded out, Michigan is 43rd, going up against the 17th ranked offense, according again to how they've graded out so far. USC defensively is 91. So for all the talk of defensive improvement, not grading out very well, Texas ended up being number 8. So Texas is a heck of a lot better than USC, just by virtue of, stuff. Let's just check out the overall defense here of the teams that have been faced, because I think this is important to note. Whoops, I did this backwards, and it was going to be weird. So LSU, who USC has faced, is 80th. Michigan has gone against Fresno State, who's 78th, so just a titch better as far as defensive execution. And then Arkansas State is 111th. And really, Michigan kind of stopped itself more than Arkansas State stopped it. So USC is, I would say, marginally better than Arkansas State, but Michigan at 52. Well, I said 43, right? So I don't know how I got 52. I had 52. I changed something on here. I think I included less teams, more teams. I'm not sure, but Michigan's 52 here. USC is, I had them at, what did I have them at? I don't know how this is different than what I just had. 91. They're 92 now, according to whatever changes I made here. Couldn't tell you why or how. And we're going to stick with the numbers I had initially written down, so we're not sitting there doing all kinds of stuff. Run defense, because again, remember, they're third in rushing. Michigan is the 10th run defense. USC is 80th. Keep in mind that USC did well rushing the ball against LSU, who is number 72. Texas is 59. That kind of tracks, because again, if Michigan would have been able to run the ball a lot more without all these turnovers and falling behind, would have looked a lot different. So that tells you a lot of what needs to happen here. Coverage-wise, this is not great. Michigan is 72, but USC is 84. So get guys open, throw them the football in those limited options that you have. Texas is actually really good in coverage, number 3. Pass rush, Michigan is 52. Maybe that's what I was looking at. I don't know. Pass rush, Michigan's 52, so that needs to be a lot higher because there was much better pass rush last year. Texas was 43, and USC, who is the opponent, is 82. So not the defensive numbers for USC they're not grading out great. When it comes to special teams, Michigan is 33rd, and USC is 59th. So, okay, let's move over to SP+. Again, the predictive a little bit. Michigan is actually still ranked higher in SP Plus than USC. It's number 12 coming out of this last weekend. They have the 57th ranked offense, the number 4 defense, and number 11 in special teams. USC comes in ranked 5 spots lower than Michigan at number 17. It is the number 4. And by the way, Michigan preseason was around 12. I think it was like 11th, so it's only dropped really like 1 spot. USC is 17th. They have the 4th ranked offense, the 70th ranked defense, and the 50th ranked special teams. Texas, by which we are comparing how this game could and maybe will go, is number 3 in SP Plus with the 2nd ranked offense, so a higher ranked offense according to SP Plus. The 9th ranked defense, so much better defense than what USC is bringing to the table, and 103 in special teams. So let's see, do I still have SP Plus up? I do. So I just want to see real quick. Fresno State had the 47th ranked offense, so not a great offense that you saw that. The 80th defense, so technically a better defense than what USC brings to town. And they're number 67 in the country. Arkansas State is 103rd nationally. And they have the 79th ranked offense, 124th defense, 90th special teams. So just all around worse. So that makes you feel not great. But still. So from a theoretical standpoint, a lot of this can change. The offense could start to soar if you kind of use some of these guys correctly. And this is one of the things that Sharon Moore said on the radio interview this morning, is that he wants to take what these guys do really well and kind of focus on that. So he's saying exactly what I've been saying needs to happen. So let's see if it happens, because that's the important thing. It needs to happen. Last point, I do want to address something on Twitter because there are some people that were upset that Sharon announced to us beforehand. He didn't even announce to the team. That's bunk, whatever. Like it's just the schedule, right? Like he's announcing it to the team one way or the other. I'm sure that Alex and Davis knew. I mean, it was pretty evident because Alex finished out the game and it wasn't necessarily garbage time. But that's just the schedule. The team doesn't meet. Like once they break, they go to the locker room, have their final say, whatever. They go their separate ways, and it's not until about 1:30-ish p.m. that they meet for their team for the first time on Monday. So not a big deal. I'm not sunshine blowing. Like there's just other things. Like we've certainly not been blowing smoke on this team for the last couple weeks, and it's just not a thing to be upset about, okay? That's all I got there. Anyway, we're going to be back tomorrow. I'm not really sure if we're doing Trente Jones or something else yet tomorrow, so we'll let you know. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you then. Peace.